Coming up on Valley News Live at 10, how soon we may know the cause of a fire that heavily damaged a South Fargo strip mall.
Why young teenagers can now get a COVID vaccine in North Dakota, but not Minnesota.
Plus, how a North Dakota mom takes action after she finds a man outside her son's second-story window. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
New developments tonight. Investigators say it will take a few days before they can come up with the cause of today's fire that destroyed a large part of a strip mall in South Fargo. Hot spots are a big concern right now after crews work to knock down the flames, primarily on the south end.
The mall, located at 3242 20th Street South, houses several businesses, including Gigi's Playhouse and Bodyworks Physical Therapy. The fire reportedly started in the attic of Bodyworks, which explains the collapsed roof.
The three-alarm fire required not only all of Fargo's firefighters, but also help from the Moorhead Fire Department.
As Valley News Team's Nisha Taylor found out, cooperation is the name of the game between fire departments in the FM Metro.
The fire at South Point Business Park in Fargo was one that needed all hands on deck to put out.
This is a pretty stubborn fire. Started out as a stubborn fire.
A fire of this magnitude can pose many challenges, including gaining entry to battle the flames inside. The type of building also plays a role in how these firefighters go about handling this kind of blaze.
The way they are constructed can add to a very rapid fire growth, which this one had a pretty rapid fire growth from the time of ignition till the time we got on scene.
The fire required the use of every truck in the city, including some help from firefighters from across the river in Moorhead. Battalion Chief Lee Soth says firefighters can carry about 100 pounds of equipment at a time, which can lead to exhaustion quickly. He says it's a relief knowing that everyone is willing to work together to get the job done.
Helping in the fire world goes both ways. Moorhead needs us, we go there. We needed them, they came here.
In Fargo, Nisha Taylor, Valley News Live.
There were no civilian injuries today, one minor firefighter injury, and a GoFundMe page has been set up to help out Gigi's Playhouse. We've placed a link on our website. Go there and look for this story.
Breaking into our newsroom right now. In the Fargo Public School District, masks will no longer be required on elementary playgrounds or during outside physical education activities at all schools starting tomorrow. The mask requirement will be dropped entirely on June 7th. Rather, masks will then be optional. There are also changes to some policies relating to close contacts. You can read more about that on our website and the VNL News app. One man is in jail, another man is under investigation after a shooting last night in North Fargo. Officers responded to a suspicious man and a vehicle in the 1200 block of 49th Avenue North just before 10 and later arrested this man, 41-year-old James Meyerhofer, on DUI and fleeing charges. Deputies say the homeowner, 42-year-old Joe Larson, fired several rounds at Meyerhofer and his vehicle but didn't hit him. Cass County State's Attorney Birch Burdick says he hasn't been able to look at the case yet, so it's unclear if Larson will be charged. Burdick says while North Dakota's new Stand Your Ground law doesn't take effect until August 1st, he could choose to apply it to the case, but doing so would be rare.
If they're getting closer to legalizing something, or if they're making something a lower crime, we'll try and decide whether or how to apply that in those circumstances. How that might work here with the changes in self-defense, I really can't say.
Now, we did look into Meyerhofer's criminal history and found he was convicted of burglary, damage to property, trespassing, and robbery charges in both North Dakota and Minnesota.
Children as young as 12 can now get the COVID vaccine in Grand Forks. All of Altru's primary care clinics started offering the vaccine today. Sanford is waiting for approval from their advisory council, which should come tomorrow. Then they say children between the ages of 12 and 15 can get the Pfizer shot at Sanford starting Thursday. But in Minnesota, when can you sign your kid up for a shot where you can get it? Caroline Cummings took your questions to the Minnesota Department of Health today.
as soon as possible.
Gretchen Haynes has been waiting for this moment, getting her 11 and 12-year-olds a COVID vaccine. She got her wish for one of her kids with the FDA's approval of Pfizer's vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds.
Without all of the adults getting the vaccine, it reduces the odds of us hitting herd immunity. So that made it even more important that I get my children the vaccine as soon as possible.
Her son will get his shot at a pop-up clinic at Valley View Middle School in Edina on Friday, where appointments are already full. But she wishes there was availability to book appointments sooner in anticipation of the announcement.
It's not like it came out of the blue. Part of my frustration was, should they not have been more organized when they knew it was happening?
MDH Infectious Disease Director Chris Ayersman says the state did plan ahead, knowing the approval was on the horizon, flagging Pfizer doses for providers. The goal is the same as adults: get the shot where it's most convenient.
Adolescents 12 to 15 years old should be able to get vaccinated anywhere in the state that Pfizer vaccines are available.
While vaccinations for these kids can likely begin as early as Thursday, she warns all 291,000 of them can't get it at once. But the wait probably much shorter than the initial rollout for adults. If every single person in that population got it, Ayersman estimates first shots would be given in the next few weeks.
Not everyone can be first, but we're in a much better place to be able to provide vaccine.
But vaccinations of kids 12 to 15 won't impact the timeline to end COVID restrictions. The threshold to lift that mask mandate is still 70% of people over the age of 16 with their shots.
Both Pfizer and Moderna have begun vaccine studies for children 6 months to 11 years old. Pfizer expects to have the results on that study in the fall.
We've known that children seem to be at a much lower risk of becoming seriously ill from the coronavirus. That continues to be true as far as symptom severity goes, but case counts in children are a different story. The American Academy of Pediatrics reported today that kids and teenagers now account for nearly a quarter of newly diagnosed coronavirus cases in the U.S. As of May 6th, more than 3.5 million children have tested positive for COVID. If you're looking for another option to get the vaccine, you can use our VNL vaccine tracker. It's on the homepage of our website, or you can open your phone camera and point it at the QR code on your screen and then tap the link that pops up.
A Minnesota man is accused of stealing vials of the COVID vaccine. Police say the 32-year-old man from St. Paul took a vial of the Pfizer vaccine from a CVS and a vaccination site in Oakdale last week, recording both thefts. He reportedly said that the vaccines were poisoned and he was going to have them tested in a lab.
Today, North Dakota hit 1,500 COVID-related deaths statewide. It is one death away from 900 in long-term care. According to the State Human Services Department, more than 90% of long-term care residents are fully vaccinated. However, rates among staff are down in the 60s, despite being among the first in line.
Some fruit per se hanging from the tree for people to be able to grab, and something that they can actually visualize as a reward of getting vaccinated. I think that's going to play largely into the uptick that we have already started to see in the past few weeks.
With guidance on a facility-by-facility basis, families should contact their long-term care provider for the most up-to-date information.
North Dakota Congressman Kelly Armstrong joined a South Dakota congressman today to introduce the Get Americans Back to Work Act, a bill to remove the federal supplemental unemployment benefit for everyone by June 30th. Yesterday, Governor Doug Burgum in North Dakota announced that the state would end the supplemental benefits on June 19th.
Americans are eager for the start of summer after more than a year of COVID-related shutdowns. For the Memorial Day weekend, AAA says it expects 37 million people to travel 50 miles or more from home. That's 60% more than last year, but still 6 million fewer than pre-pandemic.
A Mandan, North Dakota mom is pleading for justice, and police are investigating after she caught a registered sex offender on her roof. What the woman did next may shock you. Julie Martin has our story.
Heather Ferris says a late night in January is one that will haunt her family forever. Her 10-year-old son came face to face with a man standing outside of his second-story bedroom window. And just like any other mother, Heather says she jumped in to protect her family. In this at-home surveillance footage, you see Heather Ferris holding the suspect at gunpoint in her own driveway.
And I ran across here and headed him off, and he laid in the mud and dirt right here next to the camper.
Ferris's son saw the man, who police later identified as Christopher Morrison, outside of this window.
He grabbed my arms and said, "Mom, I saw his eyes." And that is when I knew for sure certain there was somebody on my roof.
Ferris complained she held the gun on Morrison for 11 minutes, waiting for police to arrive.
You know, there's only a certain number of officers that are on any shift. And if they are all tied up on calls, it may take a bit for them to respond to the next call.
Morrison was arrested and charged with criminal mischief for damaging a camper.
The tin roof collapsed where he had jumped on it, as well as it broke a rafter.
But the window peeping allegation came later.
They actually told me that they would not have taken him to jail that night had he not checked in at Center Inc. So he had a warrant for his arrest. Otherwise, they would have gave him a trespassing warning and he would have walked away.
This week, the Mandan Police Department has reopened the investigation.
We've assigned it to one of the investigators so that they can do some more checking on things just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Police are scheduled to interview Ferris's son and are waiting on 911 dispatch records.
It is unclear if additional charges will be filed against Morrison. Mandan police say that they will do a thorough investigation into the allegations.
Still ahead, in collision division, our investigative team finds that new technology, which could keep women safer, isn't being used.
But first, Hutch joins us with a 7-day forecast that just keeps getting better and better.